the Las Vegas Sportsline. Presented by the Westgate Las Vegas, home of the world's largest race and sportsbook and the Super Contest.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Presented by WagerTalk.com.
Oh, it is the Tuesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline Super Bowl week. We move a little bit closer to the big game between the Patriots and Rams. Plenty on that later with Jeff Sherman, as it is our Superbook USA Tuesday edition. Jared Justice producing this fine show. Marco DAngelo is here. I'm Dave Cokin. Anthony Davis is not here, but we will talk about him for a little bit as he is now clearly engineering his own trade in the NBA. He is now his own general manager. I think this is a problem for the NBA. I really do. I mean, you're talking about a league that's basically getting down to be a four-franchise league. And if you are, for instance, a fan of the New Orleans Pelicans, there's just no point in being a fan. You are never going to win. You are never going to win a championship. You can be around for the next 50 years. You are never going to win. Neither are the Charlotte Hornets or whatever they're called, Bobcats, Orlando Magic, Dallas Mavericks, et cetera, et cetera. You're never going to win. I think that's a problem.
I agree with you 100%. With the players being able to dictate what they want to do and where they want to go, contracts don't mean anything, demanding trades. We saw the season start with all of the turmoil of Jimmy Butler at Minnesota. I mean, that team started out, he played when he wanted to play, dictated that they had to trade him. It hurts the franchise because now you lose leverage in, wanting to trade. Everybody in the league knows that he doesn't want to be there. Right. So, when he's forcing their hand early, they can get him at less money, that they would have to put up.
And here's the problem. It's not the same as other sports because in hockey you've got a 20-man roster. If you've got a guy who has to go, well, okay, so be it. There's replacements. It doesn't happen anyway in the NHL to any extent. Football, it's a 45-man roster plus 8 guys extra. Nobody's indispensable. Baseball, 25-man rosters. Basketball, there's more. This isn't even debatable. There's no sport where the individual performer, the individual superstar, has more of a bearing on how good a team's going to be than an NBA superstar because they comprise 1/5 of the lineup. They play almost all the minutes.
Yeah, in reality, it's more than 1/5.
Yeah.
And then, so it puts the franchise, the organization in a bad spot. And then finally, how about the ticket holders? You spent all this money on, tickets to see a superstar. And, we were talking about coming into the season. Anthony Davis was a serious contender for MVP.
Right. And the Pelicans, while not a favorite to win, they should be pretty good. And you never know. If you're pretty good, you got a shot.
Yeah. In the West, it's so deep, but they were a team that was going to make the playoffs. And, where they finished, they could have finished anywhere from, 4 to 8, in my opinion. But this is a bad spot.
Well, and the thing is, it's happened to the Pelicans or the Hornets, whatever they were, the Jazz before that. Mm-hmm. You go back through the new history of the New Orleans franchise. This has happened with every great player they've had. Every single one.
And it's a big town. You would think that they would be able to cater to.
But it's not really a great market. It really isn't. New Orleans is actually smaller. I think it's smaller media market than we are, and it's tough. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not good for the future of that franchise. And to me, if you're a season ticket holder for another franchise that's not one of the real big ones, I guess you're going to see the other team play and kind of hope your team wins, but you're not going to win anything.
And that's been a problem, too, with, the road teams coming in. Like you said, if, Golden State's coming to town or Toronto's coming to town, you want to see Kawhi Leonard, and it happens to be the second of a back-to-back, and you spend all of that money, and Kawhi decides, I'm going to rest tonight. That sucks is you bought tickets to take your kid to see a superstar, and he's sitting.
And here's the difference. I mean, look, a college basketball superstar means just as much. And while it's true that you can pretty much make out your top 20 or at least top 10 in advance every year, in the format they've got come tournament time, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And that's why we get a UMBC upsetting a Maryland or Virginia, and we get a Loyola getting hot at the right time and making a run to the Final Four. But if those were best-of-7 series,
no,
they wouldn't have had a chance. No chance whatsoever. So college basketball, you don't have as much of a problem as the same schools getting the top recruits every year, because that doesn't automatically mean they're going to win anything. And to me, that's what makes college basketball way more fun and competitive than the NBA.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Look at Baylor right now. We'll use Baylor as an example. They win by 30 at Oklahoma last night. They lost their best inside guy about 3 weeks ago. He's done for the season. They haven't lost a game since.
They're playing excited, and we see this happen so often where a team becomes, you don't want to say they become better, but they become more of a team.
Something
they get other people involved in it because everything's not centering through, the superstar, so to speak, and you're running the offense through him. I mean, last year with Oklahoma, Trae Young. We talked about that how many times on podcasts and shows that, yeah, he's a superstar, and we'll see if he makes that next, jump to the NBA and if he can do it. But at college, the rest of the team too often were standing around watching him instead of doing team basketball. And, Baylor's good, and they were good to me last night. I was on them.
Nice to have one of those games where
the old cigar game.
It's over early.
Yeah, that was.
It was kind of like the San Diego State UNLV game on Saturday. It's like 5 minutes in. It's like this is going to be easy.
I was able to get my nighttime nap in early.
Nice. Yeah, not a great night for Lon Kruger's team. All right, coming up will be Jeff Sherman, and we'll have a little more on this Anthony Davis and Pelicans thing and how maybe Las Vegas plays into the situation. Maybe connect the dots on that one a little bit. Meanwhile, before we get to that, it's time to look at some of tonight's action. And speaking of the Pelicans, they'll be in our leadoff position tonight as we head to the Tuesday. MJ Christensen, Diamonds 4 at 4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put them fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And we're going to get Cliff Miller in the studio hopefully one day this week because next week would be kind of pointless to give out a Super Bowl selection. And also let you know about some Valentine's Day specials that they got lined up at MJ Christensen that you got to take care of that significant other. Marco, you got to take care of that significant other and wifey at Valentine's Day. Well, they may have some great stuff at MJ Christensen that'll make it a very happy Valentine's Day for both of you.
Yeah, you're putting me in the corner, buddy. I got to
deliver. It's a good corner to be in.
Yeah. No, we'll check that out.
That's why this show is so good for anybody who has to fulfill obligations. And they're nice obligations to fulfill on these holidays because we've got the best jewelry store. We've got the best restaurant.
There you go.
Not bad, right?
So now you got me taken to a nice dinner and buying jewelry. Thanks, buddy. You want to just keep going?
Well, you're clearly going to derive a fringe benefit out of both of these. One is you get the good meal if you go to Joe's. And two is...
So I can go home and tell Lori that Dave said that I'm going to reap the rewards. So
why... Yeah, I'd make that a 5% play.
Okay, all right. I'm going to tell her.
Speaking of the Pelicans, they are on the road tonight against the Rockets. James Harden has already scored 40 points, and the thing is, there are no assists involved. Harden just takes the ball down the court, shoots, scores, and then they go back on defense. I mean, look, I don't know what to make of the Pelicans at this point because I'm not playing on them. I know that. But the market already, it's not like the odds makers kind of know what's going on as well. So you're not getting any situation here where, the Rockets are a real steal tonight. You want to bet them, you're going to have to pay a big price. But the Pelicans are basically, to me, unbettable.
I agree with you 100%. You look at this and what are we going to do? I mean, you know that the fans are upset. You know the organization's upset. If you're a player on that
team, the teammates, yeah.
What do you, your guy just quit on you, basically. He's hurt. He wants out.
Did you see the conversation with Drew Holiday?
I missed that.
Well, I mean, they're talking about it, and it's like, I don't know. You got to go ask him.
Yeah.
I don't know what Holiday's supposed to say. He gave the right answer. But you could kind of see it in his face, like this look of resignation, like we don't have a chance.
So, we're going to watch and see in the coming weeks. And this is the time of the year that you do start seeing some teams. We don't want to use that word, but it's out there.
You can use it in the
NBA. Is it tank time? But you look at, let's look at the Rockets. You are paying a premium, Dave. CP3 came back. Now, this is kind of weird Because if you look at the plus minuses when CP3 was on the floor with Harden, when both of them were on the floor, they were actually minus points in the game. But
I think he should have the insurance agent out there with him. They make a good combination.
Go. Yeah, get Aaron Rodgers as well. Same agent. Situation though is first game they finally did hold a team under 100 points. They haven't held a team under 100 points for a long time. But they didn't cover that game. I can't lay the points with Houston here. But as you said, I don't.
So do you look maybe for a lack of defense? Because if the commitment's not there, it might show up at the defensive end, and you might get a ton of points.
It always takes more energy to play defense.
Yes.
I've said that all the time. But you also don't have one of your biggest scorers on the floor, and it does take two teams to get it to the total. My numbers have Houston by 11, but you're right there at the number, so no value for me. I'm passing this one.
We are saving UNLV's home game with the Wolfpack for the marquee matchup. Obviously, we're going to spend some time on that later, but we'll look at another team that always gets a lot of action when they're playing, and that's the Lakers. They're at home tonight with the 76ers. Again, the Lakers off a win against Phoenix, but I can tell you this, if they play like they did against Phoenix, they won't be beating the 76ers. That was almost comically bad at times on Sunday. I rarely watch the NBA these days, but there was nothing else on at that time. Everything else had ended. All right, I'll watch the Suns and Lakers, and it was some of the worst basketball you could ever imagine seeing. I mean, the Lakers were bad. The other team had a 4-on-1. They blew a 4-on-1 break, which in the NBA is really tough to do. The Lakers are not playing well, and 76ers are.
But which 76ers team is going to show up? Because this is a team that's been up and down all season long. Whenever you expect them to have a good game, they don't. Now they're playing the Lakers, and you have that name, the Lakers. It's still the mystique of the Lakers. But did you see who they have on deck? They got Golden State on deck.
Rematch of getting their teeth kicked in the last time they played.
So, do you really want to lay an inconsistent team points on the road with the Sixers? Philadelphia, after two or more overs this season, they're just 4-12 against the spread in the next one. Where I'm going to go, Dave, I'm going to go to the total. This is a really high total in this one, 231. Give you two angles. The Lakers, first of all, at home this season, they're 19-8 to the under. Now, a subset of that is if it's a non-conference home game, which is what we have tonight, 8-1 to the under.
That's pretty good.
So I'm going to go ahead and take this one under the total, thinking Philadelphia might have one eye on the next game.
That sounds good. Let's talk about Virginia and North Carolina State, ACC battle tonight. Cavaliers rolling along. Kind of looking forward to that rematch they have with Duke a little way down the road when they'll play at Charlottesville, and Virginia will get a chance for their payback. But in the meantime, the Cavaliers have work to do, and this is not an easy game. At Raleigh tonight, NC State is a very capable squad. If you look at their ledger this year, they've been in every game, including the handful of losses that they've got. They've been close to those games. Upset possibility.
It is, Dave. You know how I feel about Virginia.
Yep.
I like this team, and, man, have they been in ATM. They have won 10 in a row and 13 of the last 14 against the spread. They're winning and covering, Dave. And, you usually don't see that with a highly ranked team like this where, that they're winning and covering because it's a highly ranked team. It's a visible team.
But this year's Virginia squad is also pretty good offensively. They've had 4 games in the 80s this year, which they never do.
And they're shooting threes like at a 40% clip. With all of that said, I've got an angle for you here on the under in this one, and I think they had that blowout Saturday at Notre Dame.
Right.
The only way NC State has a shot in this game is to get it into a half-court game, slow it down.
It's not really their tempo.
It's not.
NC State is an up-tempo team.
They want to go that way, but I think Virginia, even though they've played more up-tempo this year, I think they're going to play that hard-nosed D, try to get them also in the half-court game to frustrate them. Virginia, 16-4 to the under. Last 3 seasons when they're coming off a road win. This one opened up at 139, and if you saw the early money came in on the under in this game, 136, I actually agree with it. I think this is a game where it's going to be like a 65-60 game.
In a Big Ten matchup, Northwestern and Maryland will go at it tonight. The Terrapin streak has ended. So is this one of those situations where now that the hot streak is over, they maybe go through a little cold snap? And if they do, Northwestern's one of those pesky teams that can come in and score the upset.
And I think they can. Northwestern in this one here. Maryland, as you said, after that 7-game winning streak, now they've lost 2 in a row. they've been struggling to shoot the basketball, and that's not a good thing because the last three opponents that Northwestern's faced, they've held to 38, 30.